Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Candidates Night, presented by the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce. My name is Phil Harriman. I have the pleasure of being the moderator tonight. By way of background, I'm a lifelong resident, former town councilor, former state senator, and volunteer fireman. Been through the public schools, as have all three of my children. And we're delighted that so many people have joined us here in person, and thank you to those of you listening at home. Tonight, we welcome candidates for both the Town Council and the School Committee. The four candidates are running for three-year seats on the School Committee, and they are Ann Fleming, Kelly Hall, Sarah Alvarez, and Chris Stetson. Welcome. Good evening. And the three candidates to my right, your left, there are three candidates running for 2 seats on the Yarmouth Town Council, and they are Heather Abbott, David Craig, and Raymond McLaurin Jr. We're going to allow the candidates a minute to introduce themselves, and we'll cover some questions that have been sent in by the community. The questions have not been seen in advance by the candidate, and the candidates will have a minute or two, depending upon the question, to answer. We will not engage in a rebuttal or a discussion, and tonight we'll wrap up with allowing each of them to make a closing statement. We ask the candidates to please be mindful that we'd like you to stay within the time frame of the questions, and Chelsea DeConzo, who's sitting in the front row, has a sign to give you a 30-minute heads up to wrap up, and then she will turn it into a stop. Wrap it up. We ask the audience to please remain respectful of the candidates and other attendees. We'll make sure there's time after the televised version of this program if you have particular issues or questions that you would like to ask the candidates. Please feel free to do so. So, I was given a secret message by Chelsea about who got picked in what order. And we're going to allow each of the candidates 1 minute to introduce themselves to you and tell you a little bit about their background. The town council candidates will go first, and the first person drawn was Raymond McLaurin Jr. Ray, welcome.
Okay. Ready?
You're ready. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thanks for everybody for coming out to listen to us tonight. And I have lived in Yarmouth since I was a little boy. So I've been here 71 years. The time that I was away was I was in the Coast Guard, but I've always voted all the time here in Yarmouth, even though I was away in Virginia, Connecticut, Florida, Cuba, all over the East Coast. I was inspired to serve by an article that was in one of the local papers here, where in 1965, there were 30 town councilors that applied for the job when it was first here. And a lot of those customers I have worked with, or the councilors I've worked with, friends, I've sold them vehicles, and I know them personally. Not all of them are still alive, but I want to work collaboratively with all the counselors. Oh, I didn't see you.
That's why she has a sign that says stop.
I didn't even see the 30-minute time.
Next, let me introduce to you Heather. Heather, welcome.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Heather Abbott, and I'm thrilled to be here tonight with our wonderful Yarmouth community. I extend my deepest gratitude to the Chamber for hosting this event and my appreciation to all of the candidates who have joined us here. As a mother of 3 Yarmouth natives, I've witnessed our town's evolution firsthand. Being a mom inspired me to serve our community, and since November of 2020, I've had the honor of serving on the council. Working with dedicated council members and town staff has been an incredible opportunity. I'm passionate about helping Yarmouth thrive because this town means everything to me. While public speaking is not my strongest suit, my strengths lie in preparation and diligent research. as you see here. I make sure to be well informed and equipped to make decisions to best serve our town. Together with your support, we will make Yarmouth the best place to live, work, and age in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather. And finally, let me introduce to you David Craig. David, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you, Senator Harriman and the Chamber for hosting this event. My name is David Craig, and I'm asking for your vote for re-election to the Town Council. I'm just completing my 9th year on the Council and my first as chairperson. Over those years, I've had the pleasure of meeting with many of you and talking with you, and through those interactions, I've been able to see the town from a myriad of different viewpoints. I've discovered that the best way to lead is to listen. That's why I've had a weekly office hour on Friday mornings at Cup of Joe's to meet with anyone who wants to sit down and talk with me about anything on their minds. Almost every week, somebody comes up with a great idea or a great question or a suggestion, or a better way to do something. It's also why I get out to meet groups of people in their neighborhoods when they're concerned about a development or some other issue that will impact them. People want to be heard and acknowledged, so I reply to every email that I receive. I have a deep knowledge of the challenges and opportunities here in Yarmouth. There isn't time in this brief introduction to go into any of that. For more information, please go to my website, craigforyarmouth.org. That's the number 4 in the middle, craigforyarmouth.org, or call me or email me or stop by for coffee on Friday morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Now we'll turn to our school council, school board candidates, and the random drawing drew Kelly first. Kelly, welcome.
I just knew it. Good evening, and thank you for all of you who are here and also watching from home. I am a Yarmouth mother of 3, a high schooler, 9th grade, a middle schooler, 6th grade, and an elementary student in 4th grade. Since moving here in 2015, I have served on the PTO, hiring committees. I have substituted, interned, volunteered in the classroom, field day. I've served on the mission committee as well as the equity task force. I feel like this is a natural evolution of that volunteer work. I've been creating relationships with community members, educators, students, and I feel like right now is an important time to serve my community. My campaign ally and I are running on a platform of equity and excellence because we want to make sure that every student in Yarmouth has the opportunity to be successful. We want to make sure that they feel safe, valued, and seen. We want to make sure that our teachers feel supported and protected and able to do their job. So thank you, and I hope you vote for me.
Thank you, Kelly. Sarah, you were drawn second.
Lovely.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you to the Chamber, and thank you to all those in person and watching from home, including my family, I believe. Hello, my name is Sarah Oliveris, and as you can tell, I'm running for school committee. I grew up in Portland, Maine, attending schools, public schools in Portland and Falmouth, and I am the daughter of public school educators and administrators. I, too, am the mother of 3 children, ages 4, 7, and 15, all in Yarmouth Public Schools, except for the 4-year-old, not quite yet. I feel very lucky to live here and to give my children the opportunity to attend top-notch public schools. I'm a scientist by training, and I hold a doctorate from Boston University, spending the bulk of my professional career in emerging biotech startups in DNA sequencing and clinical genetic testing. Quite a shift. A couple years ago, finding myself as a stay-at-home mom, I shifted to running a small business called the Form Lab, focused on health and wellness in Portland, where we employ 21 people. I'm running along with my campaign ally, Kelly Hall, to promote equity and excellence in Yarmouth schools. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Chris Stetson. Chris, welcome.
Hi, I'm Chris Stetson. I'm running for school committee, and I decided to run last June when I was tempted to vote against a 9% tax increase and the school budget. Instead, I decided to get engaged and run. For the past year, I've attended every school committee meeting and every subcommittee meeting, with a couple exceptions, to get ready for this election. I prepared for many meetings as though I were a committee member, and I looked for the best answer for the most people involved, setting aside my personal biases. We all have them. A community is at its best when everyone has a voice and everyone is treated fairly. As your representative, I will want to hear from you, especially if you have a unique viewpoint. I promise I will respect your input and beliefs, and I will weigh them with everyone's needs and rights on every vote.
Thank you, and I hope it doesn't come as any surprise to Ann that she's up next.
Had a good guess. Good evening. Thank you to the Chamber. Thank you to everyone here tonight. I am Ann Fleming. I was born and raised in Maine and have lived in Yarmouth for 17 years. My husband and I are raising our 3 children here, and I've now been a parent at all 4 of our schools from Rowe to Yarmouth High School. It has given me a great perspective on the Yarmouth School Department. I have proudly served 2 terms on the Yarmouth School Committee from 2016 through 2022, including 3 years as chairperson. I'm hoping to once again serve on the Yarmouth School Committee. I grew up in the small town of Bridgeton, Maine, and I'm the daughter of a small business owner. I graduated from Bowdoin College and Suffolk University Law School. I have worked as an attorney in Massachusetts, a legal recruiter in New York, and done financial compliance here in Maine. I have also spent many, many years as a stay-at-home mom. I am running for school committee again because giving back to the community is extremely important to me. I not only served as chairperson of the Yarmouth School Committee, but was also vice chair of the School Renovation Building Committee. I have been a member of the School Department Finance Committee and leader on the Policy Committee. Thank you for having me tonight, and I'm looking forward to our discussion this evening.
Thank you. So we'll start our first question of the evening addressed to all of the candidates. And the question we are asking you to share with us is name up to 3 things that Yarmouth is doing very well as a community, and 1 thing that you think we could do better. And what would you do as a candidate, as an elected official? What changes would you propose if you were elected? And Heather Abbott has the opportunity to address that question first.
Can you repeat that question one more time?
Sure, yeah. Name up to 3 things that Yarmouth is doing very well, and 1 thing you feel we could do better, and what changes would you propose if you were elected?
So 3 things that we're doing well. When I ran for my position on the town council, there were a few things that people were very concerned about, and one was transparency and increasing communication within the community, and I think we've done that really well. We've increased our social media presence, and we've increased our outreach, so we've been doing well with that. 1. Let's see, 2, sorry.
It's okay, it's all right.
I tend to go blank and then it's all gone.
So 2 things we do well, and
Yeah.
at this point, 1 thing that you think we could improve upon.
Okay, 1 thing that we can improve upon, 2 things that we do well. Am I being timed?
Yes, and you have
God.
2 minutes, and you're probably 1
Okay.
minute into it.
Yeah. We've passed the climate action plan. That was something else that we were very committed to putting a lot of energy towards, and that was something that was really important towards my campaign at the time. And so to see that pass, that was something that we've done well. It was also very important to the community that we reevaluated our comprehensive plan, and that's been a process that we've been working on. So that's near to being finished as well. So another thing that we could work on to do better would definitely be the tax rate. It's something that everyone's focused on. We've had a period of extreme inflation, and that affects everything across the board. And we are very aware and cognizant of how that affects our taxpayers, but we're also working on keeping the town working. So that's something that we need to work on.
Great recovery. Well done. That's tough being the first one, right?
Very tough.
Well done. Next, same question to David Craig. What are 3 things we are doing well, and 1 thing you think we could do better?
Thank you. So, yeah, there's a lot of things. Obviously, taxes are a big discussion right now, property tax rate, but I don't think the town, or maybe not all the townspeople, recognize the things we're already doing to minimize it as much as we can. So I'll give a few examples. We're purchasing the municipal electricity from 2 solar farms. which is saving the town $300,000 every year. We also converted to LED streetlights, which is saving the town $70,000 every year in energy costs. We created 3 TIF zones, one in the village, 2 out on Route 1, and those shelter 5% of the tax base from calculations for county tax and also the calculations for state aid to education and revenue sharing. So for every dollar in that 5% of the tax base that we've sheltered, we basically save 50 cents on the dollar for all of that. So again, that's millions of dollars that we've covered in that way. And those have been spent on things like building the bridge right out here. A lot of the road projects you've seen have been TIF funded. So those are a couple things we have done really well. The other thing we're doing really well is planning ahead, strategic planning, coordinating it. We've got the comp plan, the climate action plan, affordable housing plans are all being planned in unison. Down to 30 seconds. What could we do better? Creating affordable housing and keeping the existing housing affordable. And I created the STAY program, the Senior Tax Assistance Yarmouth. That's rebated nearly $1 million in property taxes to income qualified seniors. That's one thing that we could expand. And any vigilance we can do on taxes, regionalization, and I'm asked to stop. So, thank you.
Raymond, your turn.
Yes. 3 things that we do well in this town. We have excellent services that we provide to the taxpayers of Yarmouth. We have excellent plowing, excellent fire, excellent police. The number one thing, we do have excellent schools. They are number one. And the next thing, one of the things that I don't think we do well is we need to lower our taxes. And we need all departments throughout the whole town to think and plan ahead on what we can do to lower the taxes. We do, one thing I forgot was communications. We do well with communications. The town does communicate to all our citizens what we're doing.
Thank you. Let me turn to the school board now, and Ann Fleming, same question.
Thank you. Yeah. All right, so I will dive in. I guess I will start by saying I think that there's lots we are doing well in our schools. I don't think I can even come close to naming them in the 1 or 2 minutes I'm being given here. We have excellent schools. And I think one of the ways, or one of the main staples of that is something that we do extremely well is we hire and retain fantastic teachers. And the teacher at the front of the classroom matters the most. And we do an exceptional job at retaining and hiring teachers. Another thing that I think that we do well is, as a school, is listen to our community. We have had changes to policies. We've had lots of community engagement, and I think that the school asks for and welcomes that engagement with the community. And another maybe less broad thing that I think that we do well is in the high school a few years ago, there was a push to kind of promote alternative pathways to graduation, and they have done such an incredible job with that, with promoting classes at paths or ELOs, extended learning opportunities, or taking college classes at SMCC. The high school has made that a goal, and they continue to push that. What could we do better? I mean, of course, there can always be more conversation around budgets. Of course, there can be always more conversation about how and where the money is spent. I do think there are very thorough and thoughtful discussions happening there, but there's always work to be done. It's another thing I think our school, to kind of dive in back together, they do well, is that no one's sitting on their laurels, right? There is always work to be done, and there are always discussions to be had to continue to push forward it. And I'm getting the stop, saved by the stop sign.
Thank you. Kelly, you're next.
So one thing that I think our school district does really well is supporting our most vulnerable students. I'm always amazed at the generosity of Yarmouth families. And I've just been so impressed as our demographics have changed, how educators, community members have really stepped up and welcomed people into our school department. I put community engagement. That could also kind of go in what we could do better, because I think I'm one of those people that I'm always raising the bar. So I think we do a great job of engaging the community, but I think that we could do that even more with maybe some of the things that Dave mentioned, finding ways to get parents in, maybe on Fridays, to have coffee with administrators. I think we've done a lot of work around equity that I think we can be really proud of, the transgender policy being one of those things. I see Yarmouth as a responsive town who is thoughtful and intentional with the way that we meet needs of our students. So for my official, what we could do better, I chose creating more of the opportunities that Anne spoke about and connecting that to our economic growth. So if we know that we need more small businesses, how can we create a program that tracks our high school students there, right? We have students that are not going to go on to four-year colleges. They're ready to work now. They're ready to start businesses. They have big ideas. So how can we connect them to local businesses and get them working to come up with ideas so that they can start businesses, as well as in the trades, because I think we all learned that pushing everybody to a four-year degree left some gaps in our workforce, and that it's not a bad idea to have kids who want to work with their hands have opportunities to explore that in high school. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
Great. Well, I think Anne and Kelly have hit on a number of things that were on my list, so I'm going to echo a couple of them. I don't think it's worth reinforcing the good things that we're doing really well in Yarmouth, and I have to say top amongst the things on my list were definitely our retention, attracting and retaining top talent in the teaching and administrative staff that we have here in Yarmouth. I think that we have a lot to be thankful for, and I think Superintendent Doloff does a great job at addressing and maintaining a positive culture and inclusive culture for the staff that brings in the students as well. I think with everything we bring up, we could also say there's something we could do better. I echo Kelly in saying we should always be raising the bar, and echo Anne in saying, you don't want to rest on your laurels. I think those are two very good sentiments to bring into any job and to any school system. I think, again, to echo, I believe, what one of the town council candidates said, that we engage the community well. I believe that our school system, whether it's through school committee meetings or other avenues to be on other committees, subcommittees, whether it be PTO, the YEF, volunteering, I think they're very good at reaching out to, communicating with parents. I'm going to come back to one of those as something that I believe that we could do better. Some of mine are double-edged sword, or a positive and a negative. I do also think that we have a lot to be proud about, to echo Kelly as well, in the work that's been done in terms of addressing and maintaining equity in our school system. Most importantly, the equity audit that showed a lot of the work that had been done, that also showed, importantly, some of the room for improvement, the specific pieces around what we could do to address inequities in our school system, as well as down to the detail of how students feel their needs are being met or not. And I think I'm getting a stop, so I'm going to say that the one thing that I think we could do better, of all the things I mentioned that had sort of a pro and a con, is to be more intentional and regular about reporting back out to the community and how we're doing at regular intervals. So the input they're giving, they're aware, what's being done about that engagement and that input.
And Chris?
All right, I'll start by saying, if you watch the news and start to panic about what some of the national trends are with education, Yarmouth has avoided and made the best of the education system. I think there's been a steady hand from the administration and the school committee. The current school committee is amazing. I appreciate all of them. I don't always agree with them, but I definitely appreciate everyone. While I am running on a budget-focused campaign, I would note that they worked very hard to deliver a good budget for the community this year. 7.35% increase, but 4.8 of that was really inflation. So they did work very hard to deliver a good budget. I would echo that one of the national trends, the value proposition for the university education, and I spent too much time at a university, is getting a little out of whack. So I appreciate that the district is focused on getting people ready for other pathways than going to university and coming out $300,000 in debt. For things that we would do better, I think while there are challenges, a 9% year-over-year tax rate is not sustainable for the taxpayers, so we have to find a solution for that. And one small note, there's a budget quirk for the playgrounds where the schools can't budget for the playgrounds. So I would advocate for the school district to have a reserve fund where they can make decisions and budget for the playgrounds. When I was a kid, we had a flat dirt lot. We flipped baseball cards and shot marbles, which always devolved into some loose racketeering and violence. Play is a very important part of childhood. We bring kids in from other countries. They can't speak English. They've got to be able to play. So I say a reserve fund for the playgrounds.
Thank you. Or our second question is going to be directed just for the town councilors. And just to give you a little bit of prep, David, you're first. You will have a 2-minute answer. And the question is, with many residents experiencing economic stressors and a significant proposed property tax increase, what plans do you have, if any, to provide some tax relief?
Sure. So I've touched, it's going to sound like a little bit of a repeat because I touched on many of those aspects in my first answer. Again, keeping housing affordable. So again, the STAY program, I realize that only affects seniors of certain income levels, but I do think that that is an important mechanism we have. The town really can't treat taxpayers differently. Everyone has to be assessed to the same standards and taxed the same way. The only thing we can do is reimburse if we want to give back property taxes. Obviously, reducing the budget is one aspect, but I think what we really have to do is focus on the revenue side of the equation. So especially increasing our commercial tax base and replacing the lost revenue from the Wyman station. So that's why the Economic Development Advisory Board, the Economic Development Director, the Town Manager, and the Town Council have been working together to determine what would be what's the future we want for that site. Part of what we may be doing in the near future is creating a TIF zone for the Wyman site, again, to recapture and shelter new tax revenues that come from whatever comes next there. So, I think strategizing, understanding what the town would like to see in that location will go a long ways towards expanding our commercial revenue base. The other thing we can do is continue to work to attract and expand businesses like we have already been doing in our business corridor. So if you look at the Tyler expansion, the Garmin expansion, the new building, Patriot Insurance, a lot of the policies and things that we've put in place to encourage that type of economic growth and strengthen the tax base of the town is on the revenue side of the equation is going to go a long ways towards reducing the property tax burden on the homeowners.
Ray McLaren is next.
Could you repeat that
Sure.
question, please?
Yep. With many residents experiencing economic stressors and a significant proposed property tax increase, what plans do you have, if any, to address them?
We need to find a way to lower taxes. And we have to collaborate with all the people that are in the town, working with their budgets, You know, when I was in the Coast Guard, I know it sounds drastic, but at certain times, in certain years, we had to cut 10% right off, and we had to do with what we had. So I know that we need more revenue in the town, and we've got to find ways to get more revenue. And some of these properties that we have, we might be able to turn them into a business type, so we could gain more businesses here to help pay with the taxes.
Heather?
Yes. Addressing economic stress in our community is a top priority as it impacts the well-being and stability of all residents. Every year, the council works hard to keep property taxes low, but we face increases beyond our control. Approximately 70% of our budget goes towards staff costs, and inflation has soared over the past years and remains high, increasing expenses like health insurance and salaries. Our municipal employees are the best of the best, and they deserve a fair cost of living increases for their excellent service. Supporting local businesses is crucial, as they are the backbone of our economy, and growing our commercial tax base is also a way to decrease tax increases for residential taxpayers. We have the resources to do that through money returned to our town through the TIF program, and we are also in the process of hiring a new community and economic development director who will work with our business community to develop tools for them to grow and thrive. We must also fund social services to help those most affected by social economic stress, providing access to affordable housing and general assistance. We can also alleviate financial stress through strategic planning and build a stronger, more resilient community for everyone.
Thank you. The next set of questions are going to be just for our school board candidates. And Kelly, you're going to be first. And the question is, what is your stance on providing access to a wide range of literature, including books and other materials that some may find controversial or present challenging themes?
So I would say that in general, I trust our educators to cultivate libraries that they deem are appropriate for our students to read. They have been educated to do so. That being said, there are Maine laws already in place that outline parental rights in asking that their children not be able to access certain materials. Personally, I believe that removing certain content and/or students from certain materials creates a fracture in the school climate, specifically books that are talking about vulnerable groups or marginalized groups of people. What does that do when we say, you don't have to learn about these people? This is a very diverse world that we're sending our kids into, and they need to know about all these different groups of people that they're going to encounter through work and play and in school. And they will have obligations to treat people fairly and to interact with them professionally. And again, I think we owe it to our kids to provide them safe learning opportunities to learn about people that don't look like they do, think like they do. And so I think those who don't believe the same as me, I'm talking about you too. My kids should know that you exist, that you don't want your kids to learn about certain groups of people. So I think in general, I'm interested in policies that protect our teachers and make sure that they are feeling supported in choosing materials that they deem appropriate.
Thank you. Sarah?
It's 2 minutes, correct?
2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to quote the American Library Association president, Emily Dubrinsky, who said, "Every challenge to a library book is an attack on our freedom to read." According to the American Library Association, the number of books targeted by critics surged 65% from 2022 to 2023. 47% of those titles were by or about the LGBTQ plus community and or people of color. That's a lot to take in. I don't believe Yarmouth school systems can whitewash our curriculum According to the recent equity report completed in 2023, 6% and 15% of students respectively identify as LGBTQ+, whereas 2% and 12% of students identify as non-white. I don't think we want to be removing curricula or books from our libraries or public schools that deny the existence or don't respect and honor the history and presence of those people in our schools, in our community, in our world. I also don't believe that we should conflate an individual's private right to whatever their opinion is or their freedom of religion with efforts brought under the umbrella of objections or exemptions to bear on a public school system. Student, staff, and conduct, curriculum, and culture must honor the existence and demand the respect of all people. I believe that the efforts to narrow this curriculum, the culture, and representation of our schools to serve a minority based on religious or personal views denies the reality of our society and is not a fact-based representation of our past, present, or future. I echo Kelly's statement that I too trust our teachers, our staff, our librarians, our administrators to create age-appropriate curriculum from a diverse set of teaching materials. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
Okay, let's give me an easy one now. All right, so I'll start by saying materials in schools should reflect everyone in the community and the schools. And something that holds a story about race, gender, or sexual orientation is not a reason to restrict access. It's not. And as long as we have acceptance criteria that are applied equally across genres and represent all represented groups, we'll be fine. We had a discussion here in this room last December related to a policy that was tabled, IMBC. And to prep for that meeting, I read 4 books. I wanted to know. I wanted to understand. So one was Gender Queer and the other was Flamer. And I chose those books because they were frequently challenged. And I understand both sides of the discussion on those books. What I found, though, was that 95% of the content in those books was about a young person just trying to get their way through the day and find a relationship that was meaningful to them. So the books, they had value. Would they have, in my opinion, would they be better books without the 5% of content that was sort of shocking that everyone gets excited about? I would say yes, but they're good books and they should stay. I read another book that I have with me tonight, and I would like to give it to someone. I'll buy you lunch after you read it, and I would like you to walk me through it, because as I read it, I did not think it would be helpful for a 14 or 15-year-old who was trying to find their way through the day. So I just would say that we should have consistent standards for all materials.
Anne?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can say I actually don't probably need the 2 minutes for this. I do not believe in book banning. I don't believe in banning books. Our job as school committee members is not to run the school. Our job as school committee members is to ensure that the school is run well. And we do that through our experts, our teachers, our librarians, our administrators. And I have my trust in these experts that they are providing our students with age-appropriate materials. So that is quite simply my answer to this question.
A politician, a few words. It's very unusual. Very well. Our next question is for both groups. And we're going to start with Ray McLaren. And the question is, to serve on either of these committees, these elected offices, one must be passionate and open to compromise. Tell us about a time, whether in your career or your personal life, in which you needed to compromise on something you felt passionate about, and how did you resolve that?
I think back when I was in the Coast Guard, we did a lot of interdiction of people coming to the United States, whether it's through Cuba or it's through Haiti. There were certain laws, so people that came from Haiti, they couldn't enter the United States, but people coming from Cuba could. So it was difficult to work that out, but it's all go by the laws that we, the people of the United States, vote on. So it's hard to know. You know, one time we came upon a boat, had 7 people in it from 7 different countries. And so we had to take them back to another country that would accept them. So it's difficult. There's a lot of stuff going on out there. You just have to look at the situation and work with it.
Heather?
I would say every day serving on the council, we're faced with decisions to make and compromises to figure out between one another. And it's something that can come to pretty easily when you listen and when you just hear where the other person is coming from, and you can come to that decision together. So let's see. A specific example that comes to mind is years ago when I was first on the council, and it was really hard to me. I think it was the first time that I was really faced with having to make a tough decision and a tough compromise. It was over mask wearing, which is a very heated topic. And the decision that the council came to was to follow the science, and that we were not going to make people wear masks in the audience here. And that was the real first hard choice I feel like that we made as a council when I was serving. It was within like the first, month or so. But it was a really good learning experience because I realized it's not just me, it's us making decisions for the safety and the well-being of everyone involved. And it was a good learning experience.
David?
Yeah. So I got into, or the reason I got interested in running for town council initially was around restoring the river and removing the dams, and very passionate about that. I think it's a great natural resource, and we should do the best we can for it. But when I started, I was very passionate about it, but I knew what I wanted. I knew what I wanted to work for and advocate for. But as we got into that process, I learned what you do on the council is you have to listen to all the stakeholders. And there are many in this case, and they come from very different directions. So as it turned out, after listening to those stakeholders and understanding what they needed and wanted, really the only way forward was to have a trusted neutral third party to kind of mediate the whole situation. And that's where the U.S. Army Corps has come in. So for the past 4 years, we've been working with the Army Corps, again, to get the information, to understand what can be done around river restoration. In that time period, I kind of played a different role. I had to go to some of the groups that were very passionate about having things happen quickly and urge them to wait, to let the process play out. And we had, so I ended up kind of on the other side from where I started in terms of working with the community and saying, look, we have to be patient for this. This is how we have to respect all the stakeholders in the process. And now we're at a point we're about to move forward with the recommendations from the Army Corps, and we need to do everything we can to make that an open, transparent process where we listen to everybody and consider all the stakeholders. So that would be my example of where I've completely shifted and had to compromise and come around to a different way of looking at things and working with the community.
Thank you. Sarah?
Thank you. Well, this is a great question. I think it's something that I deal with on a daily basis, running a business, not to mention a family of 5 people in my household. But I would say that as a business owner, we employ 21 people. We have hundreds of clients. There's a lot of decisions every day that require compromise. And when you own your own business, you're passionate about the decisions that are made because it's a reflection of yourself. And at the end of the day, you succeed or fail on your own merits. I run the business with two partners, and we have to make these decisions as a little triumvirate. And we rarely agree on the same things on the same day. So whether it's who we hire, how we're marketing ourselves, how we're structuring our classes, what equipment to purchase, we have to passionately defend our position on the decisions we're making for the better of our business and to survive as a small business, which is a tricky thing, especially having started during COVID as a gym. So I think I deal with that challenge on a daily basis, and we've survived thus far. I think as the president of Yarmouth Daycare, two of my children went there. I was the president for 2 years, and I found I'm very passionate about paying teachers and staff a living wage and making sure that we're progressing them on a pay scale that reflects their tenure and their efforts and their talents. And when it came to my attention that we were running a deficit, I was very passionate about making sure we corrected that budget deficit and paid our teachers accordingly, even though that would mean raising tuition. Part of the compromise is that as opposed to coming down sort of heavy-handedly with this is how we're going to do it or else the daycare fails, I worked very hard with other parents in the daycare to craft different options and made the options to the families who are going to be experiencing an increase in tuition, giving them the 3 options, whether to pay more tuition or to have to do more requisite fundraising. So that was an example in terms of budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris.
So I used to work as a scientist. Don't judge me. I was young. I needed the money. When I was a young scientist, it was important to be right all the time. It was exhausting. As I went on to become a manager, I was blessed with really great teams. And I like to think it was because I empowered people, but they were really all very brilliant. And my job got very easy when I just let them work and listen to them. And then I really wasn't making decisions. I was just agreeing with them. So it's sort of a grand, big compromise. I think I was a good manager there at the end. So that's the answer. I just let people contribute and have a voice.
Anne.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think to serve effectively on the school committee, you're constantly compromising, you're constantly listening to other opinions, you're constantly shifting your thoughts, and not because you're blowing with the wind, but because your new information is coming to light or a new perspective is coming to light. If I just think off the top of my head of the 6 years I was there, there were big topics and big feelings on those topics, big passionate feelings. COVID, right? Are we wearing masks? Are we doing hybrid school? Are we doing fully remote? How is that working? And we had a task force of local community members, of doctors, of teachers, of administrators, and we listened to one another, and there was tons of compromise. People were, including myself, uncomfortable about certain decisions, but you're following the science and you're needing to jump in and move forward. We had years of conversation about public pre-K. Compromise was made there. Is it going to be half day? Is it going to be full day? And then that continues to shift as we get more information and compromise is made. For years, we discussed the topic of an SRO. Again, very passionate conversations where compromise is made in those conversations to decide whether to vote on one or not. World language, teachers that don't live in town, whether their children are coming. Votes have changed on that depending on the facts at hand, and compromise is made. And again, that's how it works. That's how you move forward on the school committee, is by compromise.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yes. So I had to kind of laugh because I'm in a committed relationship and I have 3 children, so I'd like to do that every day, all day. I'm very passionate. I think that if you know me well, that's probably one of the first things that will pop to your mind as a character trait. And it's certainly led to disagreements before, but I think one of the favorite things about myself, or my favorite things about myself, is that I'm so eager to learn. It's actually exhausting because I am always trying to learn something new. I love meeting new people. I love hearing others' perspectives, and I love letting that give me the opportunity to think differently. I think that's one of the most exciting things about life, having new opportunities to see a different perspective. I don't expect anyone to think like I do because no one has had the life experience that I have, and their brain isn't wired like mine. So I'm very open to compromise. One specific example that relates to the Yarmouth community, I was on a hiring committee for a school administrator, and I disagreed with everyone in the room, and I kind of held up the process, but I just felt like I'm trained as a sociologist, I'm seeing the big picture, you're all just thinking that you like this person, and so I really dug in. But in the end, I relented and went with everybody else's choice because at the end of the day, they were the people that were going to be working with this individual. So I'm passionate in my beliefs, but I also am willing to really think deeply and compromise with those that are going to be most affected by the decision that I make. Thank you.
Thank you. So for our 5th question, it's going to be directed to the town council candidates, and they will have 2 minutes to answer. And Heather, you will be first. And the question is, Yarmouth's charm as a coastal village has attracted many new residents, leading to rapid residential growth and increased traffic congestion on Main Street. What are your plans to manage this growth over the next 5 years while maintaining our small village character?
Residential growth is essential for the vitality and sustainability of our town. It's also inevitable. So it must be managed thoughtfully and responsibly. We should focus on smart growth that balances the need for new housing with preserving our community's character and natural resources. To achieve this, we must ensure how we grow in the right places to take advantage of existing services and systems without burdening taxpayers. We need new developments that include affordable housing options to keep our community diverse. It's also essential to support mixed-use developments that combine residential, commercial, and recreational spaces, fostering vibrant neighborhoods and villages where people can live, work, and play. To make this work, infrastructure must keep pace with growth. We must invest in public transportation like the Metro Breeze, schools, and other essential services. As we make choices for smart growth, community engagement is key. So I advocate for continued input from residents, local businesses, and other stakeholders. By prioritizing sustainable practices and thoughtful planning, we can manage residential growth to benefit all community members, ensuring a bright future for our town.
Thank you. David.
Yeah, so decisions like that affect this, let me start over. The new comp plan is really the guide. The decisions that we make over the next decade should be guided by what's in there. Now, we have an existing comp plan, but we were urged by the community to update it, and most of the urging was over concern around growth. So the new comp plan addresses that. It's got strategies and a couple hundred recommendations, and I think implementing that is the key. The other thing is the comp plan and the climate action plan, and to some extent the affordable housing planning that's going on, are all coordinated. And I think that's important to recognize because having a coordinated strategy between all of these plans allows us to implement solutions that accomplish something under each plan. So it's going to be a more cost-effective way to do this. I've heard some people say, well, we ought to pull the climate action plan out of the comp plan. I don't think trying to solve solutions independently makes sense. I think more cost-effective to do it strategically. Another thing that we can do, we're already concerned about housing. I think we need to address, but with housing, people get worried, well, houses are are built, and that brings a lot of kids into the community, and that increases the demands on the school and increases the property taxes. But if we look at the housing that we need the most in town, it's 55-plus housing, workforce housing, single-bedroom apartments. Those are all housings that are in short supply in Yarmouth, but which bring in revenue without incurring a lot of costs, especially on the school budget. The other aspect of growth that alarms people is when they feel like the character of their neighborhood is going to change. And that's why when things like CZAs or zoning changes have come up, that I make it a point to get out there, meet with the neighbors, go walk the neighborhood, talk to them, and understand what it is they're concerned about so we can look for a better outcome and a win-win solution. Thanks.
Raymond.
Yes. We need to keep the Yarmouth charm going. I've been here a long time, and I promote this town to a lot of people. We need more community help, that it doesn't cost the money. We need to have people volunteer to do certain things that can be done so we don't have to pay to increase the taxes. For example, I moved back from the Coast Guard in 1988. My mortgage on my house is a certain number, but people that are renting now are spending twice what I pay in my mortgage. And that just can't be sustainable. I mean, some rents right now are $2,600 or more, and that my pay hasn't gone up. I live on a fixed income. I'm retired Coast Guard, Social Security. I work part-time at Beans just to make ends meet to pay my taxes. So we need to look at the whole process. You know, the climate action plan, I don't know what that's going to cost us. But if you really look into it, it's going to be massive tax increases. So that's all I can say right now.
Thank you. We'll let the town council candidates have a break, and we'll turn to our school committee candidates for their answers to this question. And Chris, you will go first. And the question is, in the context of Yarmouth's residential growth, what is your approach to balancing the school resources needed to maintain high-quality education while ensuring fiscal responsibility as it relates to the taxpayers? 2 minutes.
Okay, well, I'll reference the climate action plan. In the climate action plan, it sort of describes transitioning all 17 diesel buses in the fleet to EVs. And that would be something between 4 and 5 million. There may be grants from the state, but then that's, you know, that's left pocket, right pocket in terms of the taxpayer. That really doesn't, so I think we really need to consider that goal for a change. It's expensive, and EV buses don't meet all the requirements for Yarmouth transportation needs. Out of district travel in the winter, I think, would be a challenge. Additionally, we have a municipal goal to be net zero by 2030, which would involve another renovation to the schools, which I don't have a price for. No one's printed a price for that. I've tried to do some research, but I think the two of them together would be $7 to $8 million additional to the school budget between now and 2030. When you look at the budgeting process for the Yarmouth schools now, they left some pretty important things off, like custodians for the Rose School, teachers for students that have special needs. So I think we're having some kitchen table hard choices to make. And if we start talking about a significant growth in housing, which is also in the comp plan, I think we're going to have a real increased need in educators. We need to spend money on educators, not on climate action right now.
Thank you. Ann?
Yes. All right. So I've been through the school budget process 6 times over my years on school committee. and it is a thorough and thoughtful process where every line item is looked at closely and debated heavily. In the context of if the growth, residential growth continues to increase, I mean, we are obligated to educate our kids, and we're obligated to fund the schools to educate these kiddos. 80% of our budget is driven by personnel, which is the teachers and the staff and the administrators, as I 100% think it should be. We, I think, as I said earlier tonight, teachers in the classroom is the most important indicator of success. And so if our student numbers continue to rise, our teacher numbers will continue to rise, and our services. Another large driver of our budget is special education services. Again, we are required by law to meet many of those, and we want to meet those needs that are presented to us. So, I mean, I guess in context, it would continue on the prospect of, it would continue to be the regular budget process, but all of this growth would continue to affect the budget in the ways I just outlined.
Thank you. Kelly?
As an administrator in another school district, I've been part of many budget conversations. And again, I will echo what Ann said. It's a very thorough, thoughtful process. Every line is gone through. There's a lot of intention, many different voices and opinions that go into that. But at the end of the day, it's all about making sure that our staff have wages that allow them to live in the communities that they serve and live well, and that our students have what they need regardless of what their needs are. We don't want to be running programs that are just keeping us from being sued, right? Like, we want to make sure that if your child has special needs, they're getting an exceptional education, and Yarmouth as well. I think that way for multilingual students, right? That's new for us. So we're not just going to do it, we want to do it well. And that requires resources. So I definitely think that hard decisions have to be made. That's just the reality of where school budgets are, especially when schools are being funded by property taxes, right? Like, we didn't create that system, but that's the system before us. And teachers' wages are going up, benefits are going up, the cost of supplies, all of the utilities. So yes, we do have to sit back and think, what can we do without? But I think that schools have been doing without for a long time. If you're in it, then you understand that there are many things that are needed, and teachers are spending a lot of money out of pocket to meet their students' needs and to fill in those gaps. And in many cases, we don't even have as many hands on deck as we need. We need more support staff. So I definitely am concerned with the budget. I live here. I'm watching it go up. I have 3 children. I'm concerned too, but I also don't want to undermine the process.
And Sarah?
Thank you. So I appreciate the answers already given by the other candidates for school committee, and I'm going to echo some of their sentiments. I too am very concerned about tax increases, but I think the question more to the point was, how are we going to balance the budget or manage budget considerations with an increasing population? And I think, to echo what Ann said, you know, when we have an increasing population, they represent an increase in our tax base. Of course, we don't know where these folks lie on the spectrum of age and whether or not they have children, but I think we have to consider that, as Ann said, you know, when we have new students in the school system, we are obliged to provide them an education, and a high-quality one that meets Yarmouth standards. You know, Yarmouth is, like most communities in Maine, facing rising taxes for a number of reasons, which have been brought up by other folks here tonight, inflation being probably top on that list. But I'd also like to keep in mind that, you know, the Yarmouth Town Council and School Committee, and, you know, with the superintendent, have made some tough choices in the past. I'm not going to armchair quarterback those decisions. My plan, if elected, is to come in to listen, to learn, and to help prioritize as a member of the school committee, not come in with my sort of preconceived notions of what went right or wrong. I think, when you come into a new role like this, there's a lot of learning to do from day one. There's a steep learning curve, and I plan to do just that. We have a lot of wonderful services in the town of Yarmouth for our schools, and I think that's what makes Yarmouth public schools some of the best, or one of the best in the state, and what also attracts new residents to our town, and what keeps residents in this town. So I don't think we want to be sacrificing items on the budget to the extent to which it's going to compromise the quality of our schools and remove that attractability of our town and our school system.
Thank you. Our last question before we have closing statements will be directed to all of the candidates. We'll start with the town council candidate, and David, you're up first. If you can imagine yourself in a few years from now completing your time of service, what would you like to be able to look back on as your legacy, and what efforts would be on the top of your list of accomplishments?
Yeah, when you get elected to the town council, the first thought that goes through your mind is don't break it. We have a fantastic town here with so many great things going for it. So honestly, the legacy of just don't break it would be high on that list. But I think, especially this year with the challenges we had around, replacing the town manager, adopting a comprehensive plan, struggling with a real budget challenge. I think at the end of the next 3 years, be able to look back at that and the future challenges and saying that I did the best I could, that I listened to the folks in town that know what's going on, took advantage of the expertise on our volunteer committees, and just continued to work hard for the community. That's what I'd like to look back on as my legacy, that I accomplished that.
Thank you. Raymond, what would you like to look back on as your legacy?
Well, I think I would like to look back on my legacy, that we kept the town the same as it was. So that, I've lived here a long time, and it's a great town, and we have a lot of challenges. So I just want people to think that I did the best job I could to serve the town of Yarmouth and its people.
Heather?
There are two things that I'm really proud of. One is our work on the Pride Resolution, and one is establishing student participation on town committees. Our efforts to pass the resolution involved collaborating with local LGBTQ plus community members and youth voices, and we listened to their experiences and ensured that the Pride Resolution reflected their voices and needs. And the inclusive approach strengthened the resolution and brought our community closer together. And passing this resolution wasn't just a symbolic gesture, but affirming our dedication to creating a supportive and accepting environment for all residents. And also, along the same lines, I knew that we had a student representative on the school committee, and I thought, well, why don't we have them on all of our town committees? And so we worked on that. That was a big conversation, and we brought them on, and just having students on town committees has already proven to be incredibly valuable. They have contributed thoughtful insights to the climate action plan. Their participation had sparked lively discussions and introduced creative solutions that the adults hadn't have thought of. And ultimately passing the student participation on town committees enriches our decision-making processes and fosters more inclusive, forward-thinking community. And I'm proud of our kids. I'm proud of our youth. So we have wonderful kids in our schools, and having them on our committees just shows them how committed we are to having them as a part of our thought-making processes. Thank you.
Ian Fleming, 1 minute.
Thank you. Well, I guess I'd like to start by echoing David Craig and say I'd like to not break it. I think that would be my goal. Further than that, I think if someone was looking back on my time in the school committee, I would feel pretty good if they remembered me as a middle of the road collaborative person that I think that I am. that I enjoyed working with the people that I got to meet as a member of the school committee, that I enjoyed hearing the different perspectives that come up in meetings and from the community members. I guess I also would like to, continue to move the needle forward, as I said earlier tonight, to not sit on our laurels. We have incredible schools, and I would like to continue to support all the stakeholders involved here, which is the community, the teachers, the students. All of those pieces come together to make these schools fantastic, and I'd like to continue to support them.
Thank you. Kelly?
Yeah. So I am a Mainer. My great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was one of the original settlers of Blue Hill, Maine in 1776. I say that because that's what Mainers do. Like, we love to say, we're from here, we have a lot of pride. My husband's a Hall from Wyndham. If you know, you know. And we are so great at being welcoming, right? We welcome people in. I sometimes say you might have to ask first, but we'll give it to you. We might not come to you, but we're kind, generous people. But I went to a conference recently, and I learned the difference between welcoming and belonging. And belonging is co-creating. So rather than saying, welcome to my space, let me show you how we do what we do, belonging is co-creating, okay? So that's letting new people come in and show us their ways too, and we work together to create new systems that work for everybody, and not just those of us who have been here for a really long time. So I think that's what my legacy would be, hopefully, is to create more of a sense of belonging in our schools. Kids really need that. I think there's a lot of, I don't even know what the right word is, but there's a need to create a more inclusive culture in our schools. So I think if I looked back, I would be most proud of co-creating with my fellow community members and as well as school committee members.
Sarah, I'm going to let you swallow first.
Thank you.
There you go. Your turn.
So I'll echo that, I would also like to look back and, my tenure, if elected, and know that I helped to maintain the excellence of the Yarmouth school systems that we all value and have valued for a number of years. I think I'd also like to be seen as someone who was collaborative as well as passionate, and I think sometimes those things don't go hand in hand, but I think that they certainly can. I think in a number of positions I've held throughout the years, whether as a scientist, a business owner, an environmental consultant, they're all things I feel very passionately about, but I've been successful in my professional endeavors because I've been able to listen and to compromise, back to an earlier question. So I want people to look back on my tenure as someone, or at me in my tenure as someone who was passionate, but also was able to listen to all people, all sides, and to compromise when it made sense. I'd really also like to hear reports from students, my own children in particular, that they felt safe, they felt included, they felt seen and heard in their schools, whether that be on the, in the theater club, whether that's on the sports field. I think coming up in the public schools, I was a jock, and so having a theater kid is new for me. And I see that there's a place for everyone, and I want to make sure that all children feel like there's a place for them in the Yarmouth school system. I was so surprised and pleased the other night when I referenced a group of popular kids to my stepson Asher, and he said, "Popular? There's no such thing as popular. Everyone just kind of does their own thing." Whether that's the reality, I don't know, but that's his reality, and what a wonderful thing that he, as a transgender teen at Yarmouth High School, feels like there's a place for him, and I want to make sure it stays that way.
Chris?
Well, I would have to say that since consecutive 9% year-over-year tax rate growth is not sustainable far into the future, so we've got to get that under control. At the same time, the world economy is getting more and more competitive, it's not going to slow down for our new graduates, which means we cannot compromise on quality of education, which really comes down to educator recruitment, retention, and development, which is not easy these days. So that means that spending that doesn't have to do with educator recruitment, retention, and development is going to have to wait. I would also have a lot of passion for alternate development paths for students, because the university value proposition, while it was great for me, is not that great today, which means that puts a lot more burden on schools, particularly high school, to deliver more skills so that these kids can get out into the world and know a little bit of accounting, a little bit of business. We have to give them, you can't start a new business without knowing a little bit of bookkeeping. So we're gonna have to do some things that are innovative, which are already happening. I think that the administration and the school committee are already recognizing that, and I would have a lot of passion for that. So those would be the three things that I would really focus on.
Thank you. So we're now going to let our candidates have 2 minutes for closing remarks. And I was given a slip of paper beforehand that someone secretly drew names. And for the town council, Dave, your closing remarks, 2 minutes.
Thank you for this opportunity to answer questions from the good people of Yarmouth. I'm encouraged by the quality of the candidates running for office and impressed by many of their answers tonight. You're watching this event because you want to be an informed voter, and I encourage you to find out as much as you can about each of the candidates. We couldn't cover every topic tonight, and 1 to 2 minutes is just not long enough to get into the, these are nuanced, complicated issues. So please come to my website or my Facebook page, or come to Cup of Joe's and see me, or call me, or email me, but learn about your candidates. My wife Valerie and I raised our family here in Yarmouth for the past 24 years. I've been active in the community, coaching basketball and serving on the energy committees. Back in 2009, drawing on my engineering background, I wrote a successful grant application to retrofit the aerator drive motors at the town's wastewater treatment plant. Doesn't sound very exciting, but it saves the town thousands a year in electricity. I've been a counselor since 2012, with a couple of years off between terms. I created a property tax reimbursement called STAY. We've talked about that already. It's rebated nearly $1 million of property taxes back to qualifying seniors. I was instrumental in bringing the Metro Breeze to town. I spearheaded the streetlight conversion to LEDs and buying the town's electricity from 2 solar farms, which saves us a ton of money. I championed the creation of the railroad quiet zone so that the Amtrak trains pass through town safely without sounding their loud whistles. In this most recent term as chairman, I led the council through the most significant 6-month period in decades. We hired a new town manager for the first time in 32 years, adopted a climate action plan, enacted proposals to encourage more affordable housing, received a river restoration plan from the Army Corps, and we're nearing the adoption of a revised comprehensive plan. There's much more to do. I understand the challenges that we face to keep the property taxes in check, to help people afford housing, and to maintain those qualities we all love about Yarmouth while adapting to a rapidly changing world. I'm very hopeful about Yarmouth's future. If you give me your vote, I promise to continue leading and working for you by listening to you. Thank you.
Ray.
All right. My name is Ray McLaurin, and I'm going for town council. I've lived in this town since I was little. I came back out of the Coast Guard. I was away for probably 7 years, but I've been here, always voted for all the people that have served. I've been inspired by all the people that came out for the council in 1965. I've known a lot of them, and they did excellent work. I mean, the councilors now are doing excellent work. There's different things. When I went to school the other day to drop my granddaughter off, I'm saying, do they bring any buses up here? Because there is hundreds and hundreds of cars that drop their students off at the high school. I don't see any buses, but there must be a few. But that's one of the things. Do we really need all those buses? You know, I don't know, it must be a mandate from the federal government. Like I said before, I live on fixed income, and a lot of my son went to school in 1999, my daughter in 97. I have a granddaughter who's in theater that's going now, and it's a very good school system. So I would like to help work on the climate action plan. I think it needs to go to voters so they can decide what is best. They're the ones that are paying the bill. We need to work on the river passage. There's a lot of pollutants that are under that river passage that's going to cost a lot of money. Even at Wyman Station, there are pools and pools. I worked there when I was in high school. There's hazardous materials that are going to have to come out. We're going to need to plan for that. But I want to thank everyone. There were a lot of, oops, sorry. I got it.
So as we wrap up tonight's forum, thank you to Phil for moderating. Thank you to the Chamber again for hosting. Thank you to everyone for attending. Thank you to Raymond and to Dave for participating in the discussion. And everyone out there, I hope you have a good sense of who I am and what drives me. Serving on the town council isn't just a title to me, it is a passion. Yarmouth isn't just a town where I live, it's my home. Yarmouth is where my family and I have planted our roots to grow and where I'm dedicated to ensuring a bright future for all. Raising my children in the same house where my husband grew up, I'm reminded daily of the importance of preserving our town's heritage while embracing for future. Watching my kids play in the backyard where my husband once played brings a sense of continuity and pride. I pledge to continue fostering collaboration and innovation within the council. When you bring your ideas and concerns to me, I don't just listen, I act. I leverage my network and tap into the boundless creativity of our town staff and turn ideas into action. This strategy has led to the council's success with passing the Climate Action Plan to preserve our natural environment, updating our comprehensive plan to reflect the community's vision for growth, championing inclusivity with the Pride Resolution, and supporting our schools. You can always count on my unwavering commitment. Yarmouth's motto, "Our latchstring always out," speaks volumes about our welcoming spirit. Let's keep that spirit alive and thriving as we tackle the road ahead. So mark your calendars for June 11th and remember my name, Heather Abbott. I'm asking for your vote, your partnership, and your belief in a brighter tomorrow for Yarmouth.
Thank you, Heather. Sarah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for attending tonight and for your interest in the candidates in this election. Thank you to those watching at home, and thank you to my fellow candidates for being here and participating in this event. Again, my name is Sarah Oliveris, and I hope to gain your vote on June 11th. Along with my campaign ally, Kelly Hall, sitting beside me, I am running to promote equity and excellence for all students. I'm fact-based, hardworking, business-savvy, and fair-minded. I will be fearlessly devoted to preserving the integrity of the Yarmouth school system and protect it from extreme voices whose interests seek to narrow the minds of our children and community. I understand the budget is of utmost concern to the citizens of Yarmouth, and I'm with you. I'm a business owner, and I will, like I'm sure all candidates running for school committee, strive to make the most of taxpayer dollars for priorities that matter most to our community and our children. But let me be clear. My top priority in running for school committee is to ensure our children receive the best education possible in a safe and equitable environment. There are many issues to address: budget, preparing children for a rapidly developing job market, addressing mental and physical health concerns, the effects of device overuse, social media exposure, bullying, and cyberbullying. One of my fellow candidates, although he has not said this tonight, is an active participant in the Yarmouth Education Advocates Group, a small but organized group strikingly similar to the Moms for Liberty organization, which, according to their meeting agenda, strives to, amongst other things, develop a book rating system for schools and libraries, put an end to the, quote, sexualization of our children, censor flags and signage that promote, quote, discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity. I do not want to see our community backslide into states like Florida and Texas and the climate they're in, where a vocal minority is driving the content of children's education based on a desire to deny the existence and value of people of color and in the LGBTQ+ community. Thank you.
Ann.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody for your time and engagement this evening. Thank you to the Chamber and for everyone who pulled this evening together. I guess I will end this evening. My portion is by saying I am an independent-minded and proud of what I've accomplished in my 6 years, and my first 6 years on the Yarmouth School Committee. I also believe there is more to do, which is why I am running again. What I bring to the table is a 6-year base of school committee work. Vice Chair of the Building and Renovation Committee, 3 years as School Committee Chairperson, much of which was during the COVID crisis. We stayed on track. We worked together as a school and as a community and were able to find common ground. With my institutional knowledge and my relationships, I feel confident that I can hit the ground running on day one. I come to the table tonight with the knowledge and belief that our schools are excellent schools. I think we're fortunate for our kids to go to these schools. I want to continue to support that push for excellence, and I hope to be at the table to continue to guide the ship, the Clipper ship. As I'm a huge school supporter, I also value our community as a whole and promise to come to all discussions with an open mind. I am not running tonight or any night as this election goes on with an agenda that I am trying to push, but as a thoughtful, open, moderate voice with experience and integrity. Thank you for having me this evening, and I hope I have your vote on June 11th.
Thank you. Kelly?
Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. And for those of you who are watching from home, I will echo what my campaign ally said. I hope that you vote for us on June 11th. As I mentioned in my opening statement, I have engaged with the Yarmouth community in many capacities. So again, it feels like a natural step to engage in this way. I kind of echo what Ann says. I am passionate and I have, my own values and beliefs, but I'm not coming here necessarily with an agenda to push. I am here to protect all of our students and to make sure that all of our students have equal access to this excellence that we consistently speak of. I do think Yarmouth is a wonderful place. I made the mistake of moving to Texas in 2017, and I came back. And I chose an excellent school district there as well. But Yarmouth is a really unique, special place. But that doesn't mean that we don't have work to do. So I want to be part of all the great stuff that's happening and be supportive of the work that still needs to be done. I am a good listener. I want to be fair and open. And again, I want my kids to understand that people don't have to think like they do, but we can still co-create spaces where everyone can feel valued and seen and have an excellent educational experience. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chris?
Well, thank you for your time tonight. I would like to emphasize something. Everybody that comes to these school committee meetings, and more so stands at that podium over there, cares about the community's children deeply. We must maintain this place as one where we are always listening to one another. No one is so smart that they don't need to listen. The best decisions get made with input from broad points of view. If we can't do that, the ones who will be most disappointed will be the children. I will represent every voice in the community on every issue. That doesn't mean every decision will fit within your worldview, but it does mean that you will be heard, respected, and included in the discussion while we break the trend of 9% year-over-year tax increases without compromising on education quality. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to suggest that we all give our candidates a round of applause. Thank you for running. Thank you for putting yourself out.
Nice job, Phil.
I hope you found the debate, the discussion of value, and if there were topics that we didn't touch on that are really important to you, We've asked the candidates to mingle about, so feel free to come and talk with them. And with that, it's been my pleasure to be the moderator of tonight's discussion, and thank you again to the Yarmouth Chamber of Commerce for hosting. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.